Welcome to Country Cow Designs. I'm Jo, and in this short video I'm just going to discuss our new woven interfacing that we're stocking from Serial Bagmakers. This is called Wovenfix 2, and I'm just going to show you how we use it on our cotton fabrics and how it compares to other interfacing that's common on the market. So here I've got a piece of Vilene G700, so this is what I've always used in the past, and that's compared with this Wovenfix 2. So these are both woven interfacings. This one's from Serial Bagmakers, but we stock it here in the UK. And this is made by Vilene and is readily available in the UK. This is very similar to SF101, which I think is made by Pellon, and that's what is more common in the USA. So hopefully you can see on the camera that this is fairly thick in comparison. It's not quite twice the thickness, but it's thicker. You can see that the squares are a lot more visible through this side than it is through here. So if you buy a sample from us of this Wovenfix 2, then this is what you'll get. You'll get a piece this big. So it's just big enough for you to try it out. So we sell these really cheap, including postage, on our website. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach one of these to the same piece of fabric, and then I can show you the comparison. And I also just want to show you how we go about fusing Wovenfix 2, because if you've not used interfacing before, then this is going to be something that's quite new to you. So the bag that I'm making, it's going to have this cork on the bottom and this cotton on the top. So you can probably tell that the cork is already quite thick. It's got like this kind of felt backing to it, so it's about 1 millimeter thick. This does not need interfacing. You do get some corks and vinyl that are so thin that they do need interfacing, but generally I find that cork and vinyl doesn't need interfacing. I might need to use stabilizers with it for like sturdiness and structure, such as Decaville Light or Peltex or something like that. But woven interfacing I don't tend to use on cork or vinyl. But on cotton, you will get a tiny bit of stretch, even with like woven cotton. And when you're sewing a bag without a walking foot, you'll notice that you do get a little bit of stretch always. It's also just very thin, and what's going to happen is over time when the bag's in use, if you've not interfaced it, the fabric is slowly going to stretch. So by interfacing it, we take out any stretch, we make the fabric thicker so it lasts longer, it's stronger, and we also stop any fraying. So most of the fraying, would happen within the seam allowance anyway, but it's just nice to know that it's going to be a little bit stronger for the fabric. So the first thing that I do before I interface is I iron my fabric. Now the reason I do that is because I don't want these creases sticking around when I'm interfacing. And also you will get a tiny bit of shrinkage in your fabric if you haven't pre-washed it. So by ironing that with a bit of steam, I can get the shrinking done and over with before I interface. Now a lot of people will cut out their pattern pieces from their fabric, and then they'll cut out the pattern pieces from the interfacing, and then they'll fuse them together. I much prefer block fusing. It means I only have to cut once. And the way that I block fuse is that I lay out the fabric I'm using, and then I grab my pattern pieces. And what I'll do is I will figure out, how much fabric I need. I will add on a tiny bit extra on each side for shrinkage, to allow for shrinkage. So I'll put all the pattern pieces I'm using on here, and then I'll cut out the exact piece of fabric that I need with a little bit extra for the shrinkage. And then I'll interface the whole piece in one go. Then I only need to cut my pattern pieces out once. I'm not worrying about getting glue on my iron because the interfacing is, sticking out very slightly from the edge. For me, it's just a lot simpler to do it this way. But for today, I'm just going to show you how to use our Wovenfix interfacing that we've got from Serial Bagmakers. So I will do that first. When you're fusing your interfacing, just bear in mind that there is a glue side and a non-glue side. So this shiny side, that's got the glue on it. You can kind of feel it. It's not sticky, but it's kind of got that grippy feeling to it. Whereas the other side is more like, I don't know, like a plain cotton. So you're looking for the shiny side. That is the side that's going to go on the wrong side of your fabric when you're interfacing. Okay, so before you attach your interfacing, you just want to give your fabric a quick iron. If you've got one of those nice big presses, this will be way quicker. So I'm just getting my creases out, and I'm also making sure that if my fabric's going to shrink, that it's going to do the majority of its shrinking before I attach the interfacing. So I've got my Wovenfix 2. Now what I'm going to do is place this underneath my fabric. Now you could do this that way around, in which case I would probably cover it with a scrap piece of fabric. But I'm just going to do it with my fabric on top. Now when you're using Wovenfix 2, you want to have your steam off and you want your iron on a pretty high setting. So I'm putting mine on the maximum. This will depend though on what fabric you're using and if your fabric can take a high heat or not, and also how hot your iron goes. So I would recommend checking on a offcut before you go ahead and start on the main piece of fabric. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping the heat there for about 10 seconds, then I move to the next section. Now this interfacing is quite thick, so you need to make sure that you stay for the whole 10 seconds. If it doesn't fuse properly, you just need to wait a little bit longer. You need to be a bit more patient. I can get pretty impatient with my iron. But the thing is, because it's thicker, it does take a little bit longer to adhere. When I'm using Vilene G700, I can just kind of sweep the iron over it and it sticks. This is not as forgiving because it really needs to adhere because it's heavier. Now if you've got a press, this is going to be way easier. In the description of the video, I'll link everything that I'm using, including this little heat mat. But just bear in mind, don't ever put the heat mat on top of your cutting mat because the heat will go straight through and it will warp your cutting mat, which is really quite annoying. Okay, so you can probably already see down here the edge of the interfacing, so you can see the difference in the fabric. It's already given it like a deeper colour over here. Now I can see mine's fused on really well, really nicely. So what you want to do ideally is leave it flat for a couple of hours so that the glue can completely set. Now I've got to be honest, I'm normally too impatient to do that. So what I do is I just go ahead and start cutting my pattern pieces out and then I let them lie flat until I'm ready to use them. So next I'm going to apply my G700 on the piece next to it so that we can have a look at the difference between the two. Okay, so here we have the Wovenfix 2 and this is the G700. So I think already you can tell, because this has like more colour in the cream, so you can tell it's thicker, whereas you can still just see the lines from the mat underneath the G700. So I'll try and just show you kind of the drape. You can tell from the drape there that this one is thicker because it's not as, as floppy. And if we look at it from the back, I think it becomes even more obvious that this one is thicker than that one. So it still leaves you with your like fabric-y feel. It's just that it gives it a little bit more thickness. So for bag making, that's really great because we want like thick, durable materials that are going to last for a long time. Bags get a lot of wear, and so we need to bear that in mind. So that's how we interface, and if you've got any questions, if there's anything we haven't covered in the video, just drop it in the comments and we will try to respond to you as soon as possible. The Wovenfix 2, if you're in Europe, is available from Serial Bagmakers in Belgium. She also ships worldwide. If you're in the UK, you can get it from us at countrycowdesigns.com. I'll also leave a link for the G700 if you are interested in looking at that as well. That's great, especially if you want, you know, thinner interfacing for thinner projects. So that is really good, a really good product too. If I was going for a thinner interfacing, I would definitely recommend G700.